Hello, everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Football Palestine Extra. With me today is a guest live from Palestine, from Deir Al-Balah in the Gaza Strip. We have football commentator and journalist Abubaker Abed. Abubaker, my friend, how are you doing today?
Thank you, Bassel, for having me today for such an important episode. Well, this is a question that has no specific answer because we have to be honest, we haven't been well for the past 95 days. Today is the 95th day of the genocide, of the Israeli genocide in Gaza. My family and I have been seeing everything bad, have been suffering for the entire period of this war. We sleep on the sound and the terrifying sounds of rockets and missiles. We wake up on them. We cannot do anything. Every step outside of home is dangerous. Every step out, every step in, even our homes are not safe places. So everyone is attacked. It's a war against every Palestinian. It's not a war against Hamas, as they say. No, every civilian is attacked. Every civilian is targeted, and everyone is not protected. And the overall situation for me, for my family, and for all the people is getting worse every day, day in and day out. And we are really, really being treated as animals. We don't have anything. Like finding food is very hard. Finding water is very hard. It's like going from heaven to hell in just a twice, getting up on the 7th of October morning when the war broke out.
I want to touch on that inflection point. You mentioned October 7th. You mentioned it was like going from heaven to hell. I think that's a testament to how bad, how brutal this war, this assault on Gaza, this genocide on Gaza has been. Because as we well know, it's not like life for Gazans was perfect before October 7th. But I think
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm one of the few non-Gazans who actually had the opportunity to visit the Gaza Strip before all of this, before this massacre broke out. And you do see pockets of normal life. And one of those pockets of normal life was people's passion for football. If there was an important match on TV, you know that there was going to be a group of Palestinians in Gaza watching it,
Absolutely.
whether it be for the national team, whether it be for big Premier League games. Yourself, as an avid follower of the Premier League, can you give us an idea of what you would do every Saturday and Sunday to watch those big games before the war? And what's that like? What has that been like for you and other fans after the war? If it's actually been even a possibility to disconnect for a couple of hours and watch these games that everybody speaks about every weekend.
So I think, like, as probably you're hearing at the moment, the drone sound is just terrifying. Now, going from listening to the Premier League sound and cheers of the fans in Premier League stadiums behind the screens, despite the fact that we're not real fans in the stadium, in Premier League stadiums or games, but listening to the sound, to the commentators, to the players hitting the back of the net, to the players defending, talking about Virgil van Dijk, Mohamed Salah, who has a stellar season until now in the Premier League. And these players for October 7th is a different story to us. When we were watching a Premier League, waiting for Saturday and Monday, we were pleased because we had something. Because even as you said, as you mentioned, that our life before October 7th wasn't even that, that too much fun and that too much pleasure. No, we were suffering before October 7th, but it's become entirely dire when we are now at this moment. So what happened is that a lot of fans, including me, because they love the Premier League and they love watching every game and even if it is between like Burnley and Sheffield United, they will watch it because they love the game and they love what the Premier League is about. And most players and most fans here play the popular game, Fantasy Premier League. So they usually tend to watch every game to know who's in, who's out, who can perform well or not. So every Saturday and Sunday, We just prepare ourselves that especially for the early kickoffs at 2:30 p.m. Gaza time, 12:30 UK time. When there is a game, we love this kind of kickoffs because we tend the last game I personally watched was Tottenham against Arsenal, the North London derby, and I didn't watch it at home. I watched it with my friend whose house was bombed and destroyed during this war. We watched it in Gaza, in a tower, in a cafe. The cafe was destroyed, the tower was destroyed, and my friend's house was destroyed. So just moving very quickly from the climax of happiness, which is not really the climax, but saying that metaphorically, to something like that, that you cannot watch any single second of football, just hurts a lot. So that's why for most fans and most people who love the game, and especially when we see that when we expected that the Premier League would show some solidarity with us, but it was clearly a biased statement. It probably pretended to be unbiased, but it really is biased when they released that statement on October 13th, like calling for players to do a minute silence or on the souls and of these Palestinians and Israeli civilians who were killed in the early days of the war. So when life changed for us from being a football fan, even for the other leagues, to something like that, the Saturday and Sunday might not be today the game that you're watching, or might not be the time that you are going to watch your favorite game in the Premier League. It's probably going to be a day that you're killed in. So Al Hassan, my very best friend, who I wrote about in Al Jazeera, a Liverpool fan who expected Liverpool to win the league, he was killed on Saturday. So we're waiting now, not for the game, we're waiting for our turns to be called. So we just life is very off.
Yeah, and obviously, condolences go out to Hassan and his family and his friends, and to everybody really that has lost their lives in this horrible, horrible war that seemingly has no end. I want to ask you, as somebody on the ground, you can give us a better perspective of the scale of the damage, not just generally, but to football specifically. You're in Deir Al-Balah, which is, I don't think any place in Gaza is safe, but it is relatively safe. Can you give us an idea of how the football infrastructure has been targeted, and just the scale of destruction that has hit the football community in Gaza?
There has been a purposeful, it's purposeful bombing and targeting of the football infrastructure in Palestine, especially in Gaza. Starting from Deir al-Balah, Al-Dura Stadium, which has been recently built and made for games to be executed on. Now it's a shelter for more than 5,000 families who are coming from the north of Gaza, who fled from there, seeking refuge and seeking safety, which is, as you said, that there's no place safe in the Gaza Strip, not in Deir al-Balah, not anywhere. Even when the Israeli occupation forces says that these places are safe, no, they're not safe. Every place is targeted. So starting with that, Al-Dura Stadium is now a shelter, is now a refuge for thousands of families. Also, we have like football courts, five-a-side games, which most people tend to find as an outlet for them at weekends. So they go and play football. They go there to play football on these football courts. However, all of these now, some of them are destroyed, and June football court in Deir al-Balah in the center of the town has been destroyed, has been affected by the bombings. Also, Al-Dura Stadium, it's outside Jordan. The street where Al-Dura Stadium is located was targeted around 5 days ago with a huge missile that cut off, those passengers that coming out to the stadium. Also, talking about Gaza and going for Gaza, many clubs have been destroyed, including Beit Hanouni Club, Gaza Sporting Club, Ittihad al-Shuja'iyya Club, and other clubs as well. Also, in terms of stadiums, when we talk about stadiums, we've seen and the world has seen that Palestine Stadium Palestine Stadium has been destroyed, completely leveled. Also, Al Yarmouk Stadium, where the Israeli occupation forces humiliated and subjugated those who sought refuge at the stadium, inside the stadium, they humiliated them, they subjugated them, and even when we see all of this infrastructure, and as I've showed you before, as I've shown to you before, that the FA, even the FA in Gaza, the building for the FA in Gaza has been bombed. So when we look at these things at the same time, and these war crimes against football in Palestine, even other sports, because karate champion Nagam Abu Samra, 20 years old former karate champion, has lost her leg and members of his family. Now she is at the Al-Aqsa Martyrs Hospital, which is on the verge of being collapsed following the speculation that the hospital is going to be invaded very soon by the Israeli occupation forces. So when we look into this very deep and very thoroughly, and analyze it compared with the situation in Ukraine in 2022, and the FIFA hasn't shown any responses, hasn't taken any firm stances on what is happening and what is going on the ground, it just makes you feel that all their campaigns were just to collect money. They were not for any purpose at all. They have always been calling for equality, for justice, and you can see that in the ads banners, in their banners, nowhere Ukraine, etc. Football stands together. But if really football stands together, it must with Palestine. So the infrastructure has been completely, most of it has been completely destroyed. And also in terms of the players we can, like Al-Zawai, the goalkeeper, was killed. Also Palestine national team, because we're talking about the upcoming AFC Asian Cup starting on the 12th of January. Rashid Dabur was killed. Also other players were injured, like Rifi. Ezra and Gaza player was injured, his family was affected, and so many players, not only one, so many players and so many managers like Anil Sadr, the Olympics team manager and academy players, and academy team coach. So when we look at these war crimes, we cannot justify it for any reasons, especially when the FIFA was just, was fair to take a firm stance on what is happening in Ukraine and banning Russia from all, and Russian teams from all FIFA and UEFA activities. But now when it comes to Palestine, it's become different. So here comes the double standard. So it's been it's been a misery.
Yeah, and hopefully that changes, because I think it's important to point out that when Russia invaded Ukraine, FIFA wanted to find a way to keep Russia in the competition. And the seed change actually came from individual players. It came from the captain
Absolutely.
of the teams
Right.
that were going to play Russia in World Cup qualifying, saying, we will not play. We don't care if you award a win to Russia. I think Poland was the first to say so, and then Sweden, and Sweden followed suit. And I forget who the third team was.
Yeah, and Lewandowski with Bayern Munich at that time wore a Ukraine armband. So he wore it in support, in solidarity with Ukraine. So the teams against Russia at that time didn't want to play, as you said. They refused, but they would not do the same thing. Now Israel will apply Iceland in the upcoming Euro 2024 qualifications playoffs, but you will not show, despite I know probably, if I may be so bold, that Iceland have shown a great support to Palestinian people over the years. However, you will not see the Iceland national team withdraw from the game. They will not do anything, and even FIFA will not do anything. So they will play the game very regularly. So it's just like unfair to the whole football association in Palestine, not only in Gaza.
Yeah, of course. And let's hope that does change, because I do know that I read a couple of weeks ago that Iceland's artists would not participate in the song competition Eurovision if Israel was allowed to participate. So hopefully that can spill over into football, and Iceland's team can take a firm stance that will then allow the other teams in that qualifying round to also take that stance. I think even if it's just Iceland and they get a bye into the next round, it would mean something. Even if all three teams say we won't play and Israel ends up playing at the Euro as a result, I still think it would send a strong message. I want to shift gears to some questions sent to us by followers of Football Palestine. A little bit shifting away from what we've been talking about. I guess I'll start with the one that's most related to the ongoing genocide. We've got a question here saying, has the genocide inflicted by Israel affected the players' morale? Will this affect their performance at the AFC Asian Cup? How will this affect the future of the national team? Any thoughts on that?
Yes, absolutely. What does it mean for a player? We saw Zinchenko during the time that Ukraine was invaded. Multiple times he was seen in tears. The number of messages of support he received was unbelievable. How does it mean for a player to go on the pitch and perform well when his people is being killed? This is the most important question that we need to ask people. How can Rami Hamad and his team and his side, how can the Palestinian players go out and compete in a very important competition like the AFC Asian Cup, which only happens every 4 years? How can they really compete, fight on the pitch when they see that their people is being killed, that all these atrocities are happening against Palestinians in Gaza, that even their teammates who could not join the national team, who could not join the squad and participate in this football tournament, when they see them not able to do so, when they see them killed and injured and suffering, how can they perform well in the competition? How can they? Ram Hamada has said that our goal is to make Palestinians in Gaza happy. But Rami Hamada does not realize that even people in Gaza do not have any means to watch these football games. We really appreciate his words, but the atrocities, the level of suffering people is seen in Gaza at the moment, in different parts of Gaza, because we're talking about more than 1,900,000 people displaced at the moment. So not at their houses, they're not provided with anything. How can they watch football even? Even if they have, they would not watch football because what they are feeling, the overall ambience and atmosphere is truly heartbreaking. So that's why it will affect them. But I've seen so much spirit. I've seen spirit and I've seen strong will and I've seen that passion among the Palestinian players. I've read that you will be ready to do everything on the pitch for the Palestinians and making them happy. So it's pleasing, and I hope they can do something against Iran on 12th of January. We know we have to realize that Palestine is not a top team. We know that. And we know that across the last three participations for Palestine, they didn't get anywhere. I know that, but at least I'm sure and I'm very confident that Palestine will get its first win. And I will not be surprised if this win comes against Iran, despite Iran about a regular World Cup qualifier and team. So I would not be surprised because this team deserves everything. This team deserves everything. There are many players here wanting to play this tournament, but they couldn't move out. They couldn't do anything. Hassan Wadi and other players, but they are stuck in Gaza. Has the FIFA done anything for them? Surely not. Even the Palestinian national team cannot lodge an appeal for FIFA to postpone the tournament or to do anything for them in order to bring their players from Gaza, where they are trapped, and that they can participate in the competition with a full squad. They are, in fact, with an incomplete squad at the moment. They will play with an incomplete squad. Probably they will bring in some players from the West Bank, other parts from the world. But in fact, there are many players in Gaza who play regularly for the national team. They are trapped in Gaza and cannot join them. Now, if they lodge an appeal, the FIFA will not respond. It's the same scenario in 2007 back when they played Singapore in the World Cup qualifier. They lodged an appeal. The appeal was rejected, and Singapore was awarded a 3-0 win against Palestine. So
Yeah.
here is the different story.
Yeah, and I know, you mentioned the players that couldn't travel for this. I do know that there was a plan for the national team to call up all the players in the Olympic team, or the best performers in the Olympic team, to be in camp. And a lot of them were in camp ahead of this Asian Cup, but they couldn't invite 3 key players from that squad. Ibrahim Abu Umair, Khalid Nabris, and Ahmed Kullab. I think the latter two had a really good chance actually to make the final squad, and it's a pity that they weren't there. And obviously there was the case of Mohamed Balah, who had played for the national team before, was in Egypt, got injured, wanted to get regular playing time, came back to the Gaza League, and scored a couple of goals at the start of the season, and then this happened, which obviously threw a wrench in the works for his plan to come back to the national team. But I think the national team will play for their compatriots that weren't able to be in the squad with them. So you touched a little bit on your prediction for what Palestine can do, and you say you think they'll be able to get their first win. How far do you think? Give me an idea of what you think the floor and what you think the ceiling is for Palestine at this Asian Cup, and then give me your predicted winner for the Asian Cup.
Well, as I've told you in this meeting, Palestine's not the top team, so probably they don't have a specific floor and ceiling. But if we talk about it, the floor is to qualify to the next round from the group stage. But if they don't, we're still proud of them, whatever they do. If they can get their first win in this tournament, this will be the proud achievement that we're looking for. But if they cannot also get a win or qualify to the next round, we're just also proud of them, proud of what they are giving. But I think their ceiling is to qualify for the next round. The floor is to get the win. So either the roof or either the floor, they will get to it. I'm very confident. I'm very confident again they will win against Iran. And for the champion of the tournament, I would not be surprised because Qatar won the tournament last time. And if they do it another time, I'm not going to be surprised. I hope there will be an Arab team winning it. Maybe out with 3 teams, Saudi Arabia, Qatar, and Japan. Unlikely Japan to win the tournament, but I will draw a guess or draw an expectation and say that Saudi Arabia will win the tournament.
Okay. Yeah, that would be something of a surprise because Saudi Arabia has not performed particularly well at the Asian Cup in about a generation. They haven't won a knockout stage game since the 2007 competition, but it's practically a home competition for them. Given what we saw at the World Cup, there'll be a lot of Saudi fans there.
Yes, absolutely. So the World Cup, when we looked at the World Cup, the previous World Cup in Qatar, we saw how Morocco played, how they performed at the pitch, how they exceeded all the expectations. We can have quite some hope that these players from all the Arab world, that these national teams can also reach the maximum level of the European and international football level. So that's why we are hoping that this team can do something against Iran in the upcoming game, and that they can do something to qualify for the next round. So if they qualify or if they get to win, I will not be surprised because it really means to them to make something for Palestine, because yeah, they will do everything in their hands on the football pitch to make these people happy. And I'm sure, and I've seen people here in the Gaza Strip, when I was walking out to the streets, despite it's dangerous, I was seeing people that many people care about Palestine. We can watch the news, we can watch sports news, they still care about it, but they cannot watch games. So I'm sure, I'm very confident that when Palestine wins, and when Palestine does something in the upcoming Asian Cup, there will be delight and pleasure among all fans of the Gaza Strip, among
Yeah,
all fans
hopefully
who are truly suffering.
Yeah, hopefully our national team will be able to bring a ray of hope, a ray of light in these very dark times for Palestinians all over the world, of course, but for Gazans specifically. Abubaker, thank you for your time. Please stay safe, and we will be in touch,
You're
inshallah.
very welcome. You're very welcome. Thank you, Bas.